meeting for Thursday, June 27th, 2024. The roll call, attendance, Larry,
Here.
Steve,
Here?
Linda,
Here.
Chris,
Here.
and Mark is here. Sue Lassard is absent. Item number 3 is to approve minutes of the May 16th, 2024 meeting. Any questions on the minutes that Chris
No,
produced?
I've already reviewed everything, so.
Go ahead, Larry.
I have one possible change, under discussion items, under Oak Hill fence and tree removal. Removal sequence will be, we'll take the fence first, and then the trees, what's happening, the trees are going, and then the fence.
Fair enough.
So
You got that, Chris?
change the sequence, yeah, change the sequence. I would, yeah, okay.
Entertain a motion
I-
as amended, or
I'll make a motion to approve,
Okay.
as amended.
as amended, yeah.
All right,
You second, Steve?
yes.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Discussion items. Budget update, we're gonna put that on the back burner till next month. Oak Hill fence and tree removal update. Does anybody wanna give that? Linda, being the closest proximity, do you wanna?
Well, the tree removal, certainly has begun. Big J was there and took down, 2 trees on
Took down 3 locusts,
3 locusts, but
one,
one
excuse me, I
in
don't
the
mean to interrupt.
cemetery.
One in the cemetery and
Yes.
2 outside the fence.
And 2 on yours. And that went successfully, and I think they ground down the stump of the one in the cemetery, and it's great. I mean, it's good.
The stump's not going.
It's not? I thought they were up there doing that. Jay came to check it the next
Okay, fine.
day.
We can double check it,
Oh,
see what's
Okay.
going on there.
um,
Did anybody hear when he's coming back, or was it kinda up in the air?
I believe, according to the Highway Department Superintendent Jay, it'll be after the budget is approved,
Okay,
so after July 1st.
okay.
I think Big J will be back, take down the rest of the trees, and then
Then
I
go
would
that
guess
way.
the fence will be next.
Yep.
Didn't
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Jay decide that we don't have to remove the big oak,
In the,
maple in the center?
I didn't hear that.
I think that it needs some discussion.
Okay, well, it's open for discussion.
go ahead.
The reason, I guess, being, he can stabilize it and he can trim it.
He feels it has life left to it.
Oh yeah, it
Yes.
definitely does
Good.
this year.
What is the rest of, what's your opinion, Larry?
Well, when I walked with him last year, from what he told me, the problem with the tree was that I felt at that time that it ought to come down. But I think he's sort of on the fence on with it now, and he mentioned, like Linda said, trimming it and lightening the load on it.
Yep.
And,
'Cause it-
and then possibly securing the 2 major limbs.
So they stay.
With a bolt or
Yep.
some
Straps.
such thing.
Yep.
I'm wondering if he did take that tree down, how many graves might be
Disrupted,
disturbed
yeah.
because it's,
Well, they-
that root system is enormous, I'm quite sure.
My guess is they would take it down with a crane, like they did with the big
Right.
locust.
Yeah,
They had a big crane up there, by the way, that took those locusts down.
I did see that. I drove by at one point. But even if we took it down, the roots would still be a problem, wouldn't they? If we took it down gingerly,
I
would we
think
still
so,
have it?
I think the roots would be a problem in that, the crown would still be there. I'm not sure we're gonna go digging around that crown, cause there's stones coming out of the,
Have a stump grinder in there is maybe not the
not
best
gonna
look.
work, yeah. So,
Right.
but you're right, I mean, we had talked about, I thought we'd agree to take it down because it had a split in it, but what you're saying is interesting and perhaps worth a try.
And I'd defer to
Yeah.
Jay if he
Yeah.
feels he can save it and it's not a hazard. And in the roots, I
Well,
do think would be something to
It's already
contend
done the
with.
destruction it's gonna do with the root crown, so, I
Right.
mean, you've got stones in there on the side, and I'm not sure that, obviously, the family's not gonna protest, because there's none around for that particular location, but,
But
it would,
my feeling is that it's a beautiful tree. I mean, the crown is right there.
it's perfect shape.
That if it doesn't have to come down, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, do you wanna make a recommendation that we can.
Can we talk about it a
Sure.
little bit more, not, and I agree. We have a big maple down on Franklin Street. It's right, the fence goes right, so theoretically right through it. My assumption, we're gonna take that one down as well.
That would have
The one
been
on
my-
Franklin, yes, that's
Yeah.
my
It's
assumption.
It's a big one, it's
Yep.
a big tree down there. So that would be, so if he's coming back, I just wanna, see, I don't know what the inventory list is on what needs to be removed. I know there was some are gonna be removed off your property, I don't know if that's still in the plan.
Well, 2 of the locusts that they took was
Okay.
on my property.
Okay, good, so are you all set with what needs to come off yours, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
And they have permission to do whatever they need to.
and that's fine, I just wanna see where we're at, and so the idea would be, we'll remove that big maple down on Franklin Street,
Mhm.
and we'll rescue the maple that's in the middle up there at that end, whatever that means. So technically, but I don't think in my lifetime, would have to be serviced again in the future, perhaps, I don't know, but that's just something we'll assume and move on from there, so I think it's a great plan. So I think we ought to have a motion.
To make a recommendation to.
Because I think we motioned and approved to remove it at one point. I may be wrong, but I'm just trying to.
That was my
rethink here.
recollection, but I,
And my feeling is that we possibly ought to invite Big J to one of the meetings and have him give us, have a
Explain.
discussion about it.
if that's the
fine
pleasure,
with
I
me,
have no
but
problem with that.
I'm ready to save it now. I mean, just
Mhm.
say, let's do it, let's keep it. I don't know what it's gonna mean as far as cost, but I can't imagine it's gonna cost more than removing it, especially if we
No.
involve a crane and stuff like that. But
No, you're right.
the Franklin Street one's gonna be the problem as far as traffic control and stuff like that, depending on how it's removed.
Mhm.
The wires across the street and things like that. It's a big tree,
It is.
Mhm.
I would agree.
Yeah.
and the fence goes probably right in the middle of the fence.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, I'll let you.
No, whatever you want to,
No, I think I think it's great. I would, if you make a motion, I'll second the motion to preserve that tree and see if we can rescue it or whatever.
You want me to make that motion?
so my last thought was to have Jay come and talk about it.
That's
You
fine
don't
with
want-
me.
You
I don't know
wanna
if we.
do that first before we?
It's up
Oh,
to you guys,
absolutely.
and I,
Do you see a possibility of him getting there before the next meeting in July?
No. To do the rest of the trees?
Yeah, I mean, will there be time? I don't wanna hold up progress. It's just something to consider, you know,
I
cause if
agree,
we
you're
say,
right.
let's wait till the next meeting, we may have to hold him off.
Well, let's put it this way, if it's gonna require a crane, which would have to be set up anyway, let's just I'll make a motion that we, reverse the last recommendation and recommend that the tree stays and to.
Pending
I'll
Big J's
second it.
input.
and I'll
Mhm.
second it, yeah.
Yep, I second as well.
Okay. We have a
Good.
motion and a second to have the tree remain, you know, as long as Big J feels it's safe.
And to maybe get his recommendation on what to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Anybody have anything else they wanna talk about on Oak Hill fence and tree removal update?
Do we have a vendor for the fence?
I don't have that answer. I mean,
Okay. I didn't think you would, I just thought I'd free think it here, because I know obviously Sue's not here to answer that.
I believe she has a vendor,
Okay.
I don't know who it is.
we'll put that on the next agenda, cause the fence won't be here before the next meeting, I don't reckon.
If it shows up, what do we, no, I understand. And then also, is that the same fence or the same vendor that 917 River Road is gonna be? Is that in the, is that?
I mean, I believe we talked to, my recollection was we were gonna do the same fence for both,
Okay,
so I would believe.
I wonder if that was in the RFP.
We did them
Well,
years
we didn't know
apart.
we didn't know the size of the fencing needed up there at that time, did we?
True, but I mean, we set that money aside, didn't we, a couple of years ago?
I think so, yeah, yeah,
We'll just have to put it on the next
yeah,
agenda for both.
thank you.
Yeah. Old Methodist Cemetery update. Chris, do you wanna give that?
Well, we did a site visit there, and I think, I don't, be honest, I don't remember where it was. And, but instead of doing LiDAR, we went up and inspected the area, and we found indentation, shall we say, in the ground, and determined, I think rather accurately, where those replacements were. There's also a small grave remaining there, gravestone remaining there, as well as shards of slate, which we had seen before. So among all of us, we determined, we posted 4 corners. I think it was a rectangular shape. The property owner was there and seemed in agreement as to what we determined was the location of, or at least some of the location of the previous cemetery. We also discussed tree removal and with the landowner, and I think that probably needs some more discussion, but pretty much understand that most of the small trees that some people would call trash trees will be removed, and he expressed interest in keeping 2 large trees along the edge there and have those remain, which
We marked those, I thought, didn't we?
I think we did. We found we determined 4 corners and threw in stakes into those corners and then ribboned them to make sure that everybody would know. And as far as the removal of the trees, I'm not sure we came to an understanding of when that would happen or who would be doing that. I assume we thought the town would be doing
Yeah,
that.
maybe again, we could kick that to the next meeting
Yeah.
and try to pin down Sue as to when the town crew might be able to get up there and
Yeah.
resolve that, because it would make sense to do both fences
I think
at
so.
the same time.
And I just want to say, Mr. Schwab, the property owner, has been magnificent in helping us determine that, as well as being there when we
I would agree.
staked it out. He's been very cooperative, and I, as a citizen, appreciate all
Yep.
that he's done for us.
I would agree.
I have one concern about the way we staked it out, after thinking about it for a bit. That right-of-way comes this side of the boundary, right?
My recollection, Larry, is it's where we found the 2 survey pins.
Yeah.
It was on that side, so yes, I think we might be fencing in some of what is a right of way.
We might be fencing 30 feet of right-of-way.
I mean, if it was the pleasures of the committee, I could go to Tim Jerome, I know him well enough to at least start a conversation, and before we have them go up and clear, we could
I think that might be a good idea.
see if we can get him out there and see if he's willing to either relinquish the right of way. I mean, that's a consideration we could certainly.
I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah,
I mean, that's 30 feet out of, I think it was 44 feet or something.
I thought Alan believed that Mr. Jerome had another access, but
From the other.
from
Town Farm. I thought.
But are we thinking that there's a possibility that the right-of-way was established after the cemetery was closed?
I think it's distinct. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was. I mean, it clearly was, because.
Okay.
But what I guess if this brings, if I see where you're headed, what takes precedent? I mean,
Well,
can you
yeah,
put a
I mean-
right of way over?
Right.
And that might be a legal question to get answered. Can you put a right of way over ancient burial ground, or
That we haven't really identified as being there, but we assume it's been there, but gee whiz, that's a challenge right there.
Maybe we should get a legal, some legal opinion first as to what that might look like before we approach the right of way owner.
Well, before we even have trees removed or anything like that, we may have to pull our horns in on that. That'd be substantial diminution of the location there.
I could talk to Sue about it and see if we can get to an attorney, to determine whether a right of way can go through. If there's any precedent, I don't know.
Yeah, if that did happen, but.
Oh, it had to have happened, Chris. Because it was divided off later.
Yeah.
I think it was a Gould that gave the right of way. Okay. Can you create a right of way over a cemetery?
It's almost one of these, why did I put that on the agenda?
Okay. Anything else with the old Methodist cemetery to discuss at the moment?
No, I have not had a discussion. I hope to have a discussion after this meeting with the Riverview Cemetery Association. I put that on there under part III, there's CIII, to make sure they understand that they'll be impacted by this decision to move these stones, and they've got other things they're worried about today, but I will bring it up at the meeting. We're having an annual meeting at 6 o'clock, so
Okay.
to let them know that we'll do everything we can to work with them.
Yep.
And make sure that they're not held responsible if there's difficulties that ensue, so.
Yep, okay. So moving on to, is there anything more to discuss with LiDAR or tree removal, or do we wanna address the right-of-way first and then secondly address the right-of-way owner pending determining what's possible?
Yeah, I would just find out from Sue what
Yep.
can happen on that.
Okay,
I also put Whitney in here, item
Yep.
number 2.
yep.
I called you Whitney Gifford Consult.
Okay, item 2, Whitney Gifford Consult.
Do I just stand up and talk?
You're
Yeah.
on television,
I'm on
so
television.
this is your shot.
Am I talking about Oak Hill or am I talking about the stones from Really Methodist?
Let's start with Oak Hill and,
Oak Hill.
Okay. I actually put together a little document. I don't know if there's any way to like show it to everyone without the screen or
Ooh.
just pass it around.
I don't think we can.
if we had Rich, we might have the ability to get on that screen.
Well, what I can do is email it out later.
That would be great.
Okay, yeah, that'd be
I'll do
great.
that.
That'd be
You
great.
guys can look at it later. Let me just look at it right now too.
And,
Well, we'll put it in the record, in the meeting records as well, so, thank you.
Just to make sure I'm touching all bases here. So in Oak Hill, what I did basically is, so far I've cleaned several of the stones. You might have seen they're looking amazing. Turned bright white and just look great. I've done a few repairs. I did the Olivia Snowman stone that was shattered by the falling tree. That one, I basically put it completely back together. It looked great, and then it fell over because the base was uneven, which I was worried about at the time, and I was worried would happen. So my top priority right now is to get that stone repaired again. It just split in half, so it's a pretty easy repair to just put it back together again. Put it into a new slotted base, which will be even, level, it won't fall over again. Let me just look at my thing here. So I basically have made a plan for this season for 2024. My top priorities at the moment are the stones that are fallen or badly broken. I believe there are like 7 of them. There's the Olivia Snowman stone. There is Samuel and Caroline Little, which is the really tall stone that had metal braces on the sides. Turns out the base of it was not sufficient for the height and weight of the stone, and it fell over again. And actually, this type of stone originally, it's called a tablet set stone. So it's made intentionally like very long with a lot of blank space underneath where the carving is on the stone. And it's meant to just be put directly into the ground and not in a base. So this does have now concrete on it, but I think I actually can, we get some concrete there, and we just have to, get a relatively deep hole to get it back into the ground, like to the level that it's supposed to be, so that it will stay upright, won't fall. And there's also a break in the middle that needs to be repaired, obviously, and the footstone that needs to be reset. There are, let's see, a few other stones. There's Josie Small, Stephen Peabody, John Stevens, John Howard, and Fanny Atwood are all basically broken in half or fallen over at this point. So those are my top priorities, to just get those back together, get them back upright, get them cleaned, looking good. After that, we have some stones that are either fallen over but not broken, so they can basically be just put back up on the basis. There are also some that are just badly leaning, that are at risk of falling, which I would want to obviously stand back up, upright, straight. And then the third priority after that is stones that are broken but not like catastrophically broken. There are a lot that have like the pin cracks in the bottom, some of which have like split off pieces of the stone, some are just still cracks. There are a couple, there's 1 foot stone that kind of has a chunk taken out the side, I'm not sure how that happened. So yeah, things like that are the,
Lawnmower.
yeah, it may have been,
Yeah.
it could have been a lawnmower or like a weed whacker accidentally hit it or something. Because I don't know how else that would have happened.
Right.
And then beyond that, you know, it's just, a lot of stones just have like small little cracks that can be infilled, you know, minor, like leveling, balancing, and cleaning the rest of the stones. And that's, you know, basically what I've got here. I have a lot of pictures in the document that I will email to you guys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for me about any of that?
Mm.
Or comments?
No, I've watched your work. It's great.
I just wanna say thank you for what you do,
Oh,
and,
cool.
you're very welcome. I don't know if I could have the patience to work on something like that. You do a lot of dedication, you do a lot of work, and I think that the town should definitely thank you for your work to preserve the people that lived before us, you know? They would be very pleased that you're taking care of them, you know, so I applaud your work.
Whitney, where did you train for this?
So I'm a lot of, I wouldn't say I'm like entirely self-taught. I have taken some classes, like some workshops with a guy named John Appel, who is he's like a nationally recognized like expert in like you know, this sort of stuff, like restoration of gravestones. He has a company called Atlas Preservation, and he does every year like a 48-state tour where he like goes all around the country, holds these workshops. Pretty cool. So I've done that. I've just, you know, educated myself on like different types of stone, like how they decay, like you know, different methods of preservation, you know, basically like just the best practices from the National Park Service has a lot of great resources on how to, you know, preserve stones like this. There's a organization called the Cemetery Conservators for United Standards, who have a lot of, you know, resources also on best practices for historic preservation of stones. You know, so I've really taught myself basically what not to do, like, and you know, like putting stones directly in concrete, using power washers, stuff like that obviously is terrible for old stone. So yeah, I've just made a point to kind of educate myself on how this is done and how to best go about doing it in the interest of historic preservation and making sure that these stones will last for as long as possible.
How many hours do you think you've put into that cemetery since you started?
Oh boy. That is a great question. Honestly, I would have to think about it.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Okay.
I'm just curious as to what kind of, you know, the town has money set aside for this. We've talked about that in these meetings before. Have you ever done this other than volunteer work? Have you ever contracted yourself?
I mean, I've done like some cleaning work for pay, but I have, you know, like this is the first time I'm doing like a large scale like repair, and mostly it's been done on a volunteer basis.
My understanding is the budget is there for 80 to 100 per year. Is that what I understand?
That's
Repairs?
what we did with Mr. Stevens, I believe. Wasn't Mr. Stevens?
Yeah.
I think so. That was difficult.
Claiming.
But that's my understanding, and I don't know what that translate in as far as money.
What we paid him that last time?
Yeah, I am not sure.
We could find that out.
Yeah.
I don't have
But
that.
that, you know, I really appreciate, but I hate to take advantage of the situation too. We could clone you and get 20 more, then I'd
Yeah,
feel
it'd be
better,
awesome, huh?
you know. I'd feel a lot better, but, that would be my interest, is to seize the moment. Instead of a moment, it's an incredible volunteer, and see what we can do to enhance anything that she presents to the town of Bucksport, including a financial enhancement.
Yep.
And that's as general as I can get right now, because I really don't know, but, I'm interested myself in records, as I drive these guys nuts sometimes with records. Keeping track of what's happened. In 1995, a person went in there and that was in relation to the moving of the cannons. And cleaned, and I'm not sure it was a positive experience for those stones to be cleaned that way. And immediately afterwards, there was some vandalism in there, so they had to go in and clean that out as well afterwards, so. That's not to say that won't happen again, but anytime a person like you comes along that's generous and kind and gives of themselves, I just don't wanna let go, so. But at the same time, I do know that we budgeted, my understanding is 80 to 100 stones, on a yearly basis. But, so I'd like to think that some of those reserves can be directed your way. And that's all I can say right now, because the town manager's not here, and she's a whiz at that kind of stuff, so.
But maybe there could be a further discussion on it.
Yeah, and any information you have, if you could share it, what I do is I put everything up on Google Drive, all the old records and everything that I can find, and then I share it with the crowd. If you're willing to let me do that, I'd appreciate it.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's great.
Actually, so far this year, have kept track of everything that I've done, like every stone I've treated
Excellent.
with the D2 solution, all
Yeah,
of that, so.
excellent. That goes into a permanent collection, because I know I won't be here 10 or 20 years from now, so I just think that anything we can do for the future, for records of what's been done in the future,
Oh, yeah.
that would really be nice to have that. And we'll even put your picture in there, and maybe, you know what I did learn up there, though? There's a horizontal casket-shaped stone, and that gentleman is in that
Oh, it's,
horizontal.
T.C. Woodman, Theodore Woodman.
Yeah, and.
We were wondering if he was in there, we were.
Yep, and he was afraid to be buried, and that was the
Ah.
agreement.
Oh, wow.
I never knew that, wow.
Is he the woodman that would have been next to the Elm Street Church, the building that was torn down, the parking lot?
I don't know.
He
I
was a
really
pretty
can't.
big deal in his time, so.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Most anybody in that
Yeah,
cemetery
true.
is big. You know, when you
Right.
start talking about Little,
Yeah,
that was,
exactly.
that family owned that before it became
Oh,
a
really?
cemetery. Yeah, they owned a lot of that side of town, and then the Spoffords owned the rest of it over, including the old mill site. But, there's a lot of history in that cemetery.
I love
The
it.
very last person buried there was a lady named Pauline Varnum. I don't believe any of you folks, do you remember Pauline Varnum?
No.
She was the manager of the 5 and 10 here in town.
Oh, okay.
You
yeah.
remember her? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was, you didn't fool around in the store when Pauline was running the place. She'd throw you out, but, she was the last one buried there in 1974 in the Varnum
Wow.
lot. So I do know somebody that was
She was
buried
for a
in
long
there.
time.
But thank you, that's great.
Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me to the meeting.
Can you provide us with contact information as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever you send us, thank you.
I can do that.
So Wendy, did you wanna talk about the roof review
Oh, yes, so
as well?
I did look at
All right.
the old Methodist stones. They, honestly, for having been like laying in the ground for 40 years, they're in amazing shape. Like they all look very sound to me. I don't get the impression that they would be at risk of like being incredibly fragile or breaking from being moved. Obviously, it was a pretty cursory inspection. I didn't do any like digging or anything, but just based on kind of the surface appearance, they look great. They look sound, strong. Like I don't think there would be any issue in moving them. But obviously something could come up later on, like once the process got started. But they just, to me, look great for, considering the circumstances.
Would you have any recommendations as to any outfits that does that work? Because we don't want the town crew to do it, so I
Right.
don't know who we're gonna get to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I don't know anyone who like professionally does that sort of thing.
How many stones are we talking about?
I think it was it maybe seven?
17.
I'd
Yeah.
say 750 to
stones of
17, yeah.
various
Yeah.
Sizes.
Yeah, like some of them are smaller, like
Right.
footstones.
Mhm.
Most of them are like fully intact, so they're the same type, like the Samuel Little stone that I was talking about, the tablet set that are meant to just be put like, it's basically a rule of thirds, so like the bottom 1/3 of the stone is supposed to be buried in the ground to just keep the whole thing upright. I saw 2 of them that were, at some point had been broken off, so they would probably have to be put into bases once they are moved. And there was one that is pretty badly broken. It's like a lot smaller, and there's like a diagonal break, so some of the inscription is missing. But yeah, most of them like are fully intact. I think if they were moved back to the original site and put in the ground properly, they would look amazing. I think it would be really, you know, I like I told Larry, I think if I were dead, I think I would want my stone to be moved back to the cemetery where it originally was, like where I'm actually buried.
Sure.
We're not sure we'll get to that level of, you know,
Right.
making it right. And the best for those stones, I assume, is in just the earth, not in anything else.
Right.
And of course, digging around up there could present a problem. We're not sure what the status was of those graves once
Right.
those stones were moved. So how to place those is, you know, that's another issue that could crop up. Do we bring in sand, or we do something there to, as a something to grab rather than having to backhoe down in there and backfill and find things we don't need to find. So those little things that pop up there, but I appreciate you checking that out up there.
Of course.
It'd be, I know they're looking forward to having them leave so they can sell the spot, the
Of
sites
course,
underneath
yeah.
there.
But Whitney and I have discussed ways of moving them. So it's possible. So we could do it, just take a while.
Well, moving them, but also placing them.
Place
Do we place them vertical? I assume that's the plan, but we still gotta dig down if we do that, right?
I mean, it would be a pretty like narrow, basically just like a narrow little hole that you'd have to dig. that
Right.
The tablet could fit in, but I mean, obviously there's still a danger of hitting something unsavory if you do that,
Yeah.
because you have to go down kind of deep for stones that big.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky, like without knowing where the stones like originally were placed in that cemetery, it's kind of a
Almost
crapshoot,
impossible.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't anticipate, we have no records of placements from that location, but we do see the indentations in the ground.
Mhm. Yeah,
all
so you know where
lined
the
up,
graves
so, yeah,
are. Just-
Yeah. I don't know, there was some removed from that cemetery earlier and moved into Riverview, and you see those slate ones up along the fence in the old section at the top of the hill. Some of those were removed
Oh,
well
really?
before they before they did this, so some were moved and some stayed, and those ones that stayed got moved in 1980 to this location, so there's a lot of history there, not all of it trackable, that's the problem.
There's obviously no way to match the stone to
No.
Right.
the grave.
Mhm.
So we're just planning on leaving the indentations where they are and setting the stones up in a,
You mean not disturb anywhere that has the indentations and then maybe create a line
yep,
and put all the
right.
stones in a line? I don't know what would be
You know, I
appropriate.
mean,
Well, once we figure out that we're okay to do that, then we can work with Mr. Schwab on that too, to see what catches his fancy. And I assume we'll have a fence around it eventually too.
That would be the thought.
You know,
Mhm.
so work with him if he's, you know, if we're limited because we don't wanna use the area of the indentations, and that's a major part of that part we marked off, was the indentation area where it goes down through, you can see they're lined up.
Well, maybe we could relook at it after it's cleaned up
Yeah,
and then determine where to set
that's a good idea too.
the stones. Try to find an area that hopefully isn't part of it.
yeah.
Thank you, Larry, for your input on, so you think there's a possibility we could get this done without going out of state for experts on moving these things?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, I think it's
Get enough
very
styrofoam
doable,
in the back of his truck.
Yeah, there you go.
It's been mentioned too.
Yeah.
Well, once the equipment's in there removing trees, I mean, the access is pretty good already. going
Yeah, it's not
into it.
bad. I mean,
So-
a skid steer and a trailer or something
Yeah.
might be the answer to get them up in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
unless you feel you can carry them yourself.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
But I even thought that, you know, 4 strong men, if you could get the stones up on, like
Basically like a wooden,
carriage,
like, yeah, platform.
and then put a couple of timbers under it to lift 4 people on, you know, 2 people on either side of it. We figured that those bigger ones are like 350 pounds,
Yeah, I,
so that'd be 75
measured
pounds
That'd be
per
doable.
person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of beefy people. That's what you need, beefy
But
people.
anyway, that was one thought.
No, that's great.
The other was her tripod.
yeah, I have like a hoisting tripod that can, you know,
Nice.
lift like a ton, so.
So at least
none of
pull
those-
'em up.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
something.
like
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
them
yeah.
up out of, yeah.
Yeah.
And doing either one at a time, 2 at a time.
Yep.
It would be time consuming,
But it's definitely doable.
but doable.
Yep, I would agree.
May I request that you, as a council member, have a discussion with Sue concerning the availability of funds to continue Whitney's efforts?
Sure.
Would you be willing to do that?
Yep.
So that we don't have to wait till the end of summer to find out what's going on?
Yeah. I can do that in conjunction with the legal question of both the right of way.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
From what I gathered, there was still $18,000 available for moving those stones.
But we're looking for not just movement, but moving the stones, but also the continued repair of
Right.
the stones.
Yeah. And of course, the fence, cost of the fence.
Yep. Okay. Anything else for Whitney?
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's all.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
have to say. I
Thank
can't,
you.
you've
Very
been
much.
very generous. Thank you. And thank you for coming. And thank you for
course.
bringing everybody today. It gets get rowdy sometimes, but.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, item 3 under Old Methodist Cemetery update is the Riverview Cemetery Association meeting. You
And
touched on it
that's
briefly.
tonight, that, I'll have a discussion tonight at that meeting. They have their annual meeting
Okay,
at 6 o'clock, so I will bring that up. It may not be on their agenda yet, but that's one of those items you bring up that are not on the agenda, so.
okay, fair enough. DAR June 22nd review. Does anybody want to speak to that?
I thought it went very well.
I did
I
too.
Yes, I did too.
think everybody had a, shall we say, a good time, but I thought it was really nice. The DAR awarded a thank you to the town, to the Historical Society, and to this committee for their
Right.
works.
Mhm.
Better turn that in this time.
I did. I turned it in.
I
I
gave
turned
it
it
to
in.
Mark to
You ruined
turn.
No, they were very,
No, no.
very pleased with the town's effort there. I got that from driving the bus.
Yeah, and thank you for driving the bus. And, you know, Sue put a lot of effort into this
She
too,
did.
in getting this organized. And
yeah.
I was really surprised at how well, I shouldn't say surprised, but I was pleased at how well it went on.
I agree.
And I think everybody appreciated the effort that the town put into it. It
Yep.
was very nice,
Yep.
very nice. And by the way, thank you to Elizabeth for all her efforts.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the
Oh,
DAR.
yeah.
She
Yep.
put a lot of time and effort into it
Mhm.
too.
She was a good presenter.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, she was.
I agree.
The most organized person.
Yes.
It's amazing.
All right, so item E, Public Works and Town Managed Cemetery Schedule. Again, we probably need to save that for the next meeting and
Yeah.
bring that back to
Okay.
Sue
Just,
again.
just to find out what they're doing. This is a constant.
See where we're going, where
what-
it's,
what's going on, how many hours they got in this year, you know, what do we do planning for budgets for next year? I will say this, the land for cemetery was mowed and in relatively good shape. There's a few graves down there, but that's not what they're there for. And the Lawrence Cemetery is mowed before
Memorial.
Memorial Day, and that was nice to be able to go in and see what they had done in there too. So they really worked hard in getting it done. We do have some ongoing issues that we'll discuss in the future with some of the pictures that Linda's taken and
Yes.
shared with us, so. But the town's really got things cleaned up pretty well, so I wanted to make note of that as well.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay. Item 5, other items not on the agenda. Maybe this is where I'd like to bring up Linda's point about mowing and maybe see if Whitney knows anything. I mean, these big machines tend to do a lot of damage in the cemeteries. Do you have any knowledge of other ways that other communities are doing this?
I don't.
I keep thinking goats or something.
That
Or,
would be great. I would love to hang out some goats in the cemetery.
That'd be awesome, actually.
I mean, I don't know how they did this 120 years ago. They weren't mowing it.
I know.
They weren't mowing it, pretty much. Every family had to do their own, pretty much.
Oh, they went in and did their own plot?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I went up there recently just to look at some of the damage and stuff, and we gotta make sure that we don't damage these beautiful plots. So
Oh, it's hard with those zero-turn mowers, they're big and cumbersome,
Yeah, I
and they're
know.
not made to get in
If-
between.
if we could only just
And I
get,
know they've got, they wanna get through it.
Yeah, and it's a
Right.
lot
Fast.
of time.
Yeah.
They just go so fast.
if I had an electric lawnmower, like one of those ones that you could just, or like a push mower that you don't need any
Mhm.
engine on it, I would definitely go through there and volunteer my time.
Ah, but they take 18 hours with a mower. I thought it was 18 hours, and 2 people at 9 hours.
Yes,
Really?
I mean-
well, they took 2.5 days
Oh,
this
wow.
time around.
Was this the
They
first?
they were,
This is
no,
the second
no,
mowing, wasn't
this is the second mowing.
Okay.
That was- yeah.
Is Sue aware of this, or will she be aware
I
of
mean,
this?
she was on that thread, I believe, that you, but we can, I mean, if you wanna
Yes,
put it on the next
I-
agenda, we'll talk about it
Well,
again.
yeah, I sent an
Okay.
email to her also, but, and they do work from about 7:30, 8 in the morning. They're out there pretty early and,
Yeah,
right till almost 4 o'clock. And, the first day they mowed, the second day they came back and started with the weed whacking and more mowing. And then the third morning, they were weed whacking.
Finishing up.
Yeah, finishing up. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't
I
think
think
it's gonna go any faster with just a straight up push mower, it's gonna be
Yeah.
No.
that much worse.
Hmm.
although the guy we had before the town, he did a great job.
With just a push mower?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
And we could put it back out to bid again, I'm sure the town crew wouldn't be upset, but,
No, I know that.
Yeah, all the overtime
but I don't know
they
that we'd
lose.
find anybody.
Yeah, that's the problem. We're having the same issue up there.
Right.
We're paying, we're thinking about paying $30 an hour up there. We're not yet, but it's coming. And we still
It's
can't
inevitable.
find
Yeah.
anybody to do it. It's the worst job in the world because that's why push mowers always look better, because they're able to get in amongst that. So when you
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at it, at a cemetery that's been done with a push mower, it's like, why can't we have that all the time?
Mhm.
Well, because we can. And I grew up with hand clippers around the house before. And I
Full
gotta
weed
tell you,
whackers.
when weed whackers showed up, I was never so happy that I didn't have to grab those things and go around the house. So, I mean, that may be the only way to do some of those graves, especially ones with marble that are so soft, that
Mhm.
you may have to have a rule, anything that's white, looks marbly, stay away from it with a weed whacker, and we'll figure
Oh,
something
yeah,
else out.
'cause it is taking the chunks out
It's-
of the
it's
sides.
chewing the line right
Yeah,
through.
it really.
That's getting a bit draconian, but, you know, that's a discussion we can have with Sue, I think, in the future.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do it, okay.
So, I've got a couple of things.
Yep.
Just for the record, Whitney, Leslie, and I stopped by Bolton Cemetery last month, I believe it was. And there's some considerable damage up there as well.
Oh,
The-
is it vandalism or
No,
weather
I don't
related?
believe so. Is that not true? And then,
It didn't look like vandalism.
no, it wasn't vandalism, but anyway, there's some work in that cemetery as well, and as Whitney pointed out, a lot of the Stevens repairs were not what to do.
Oh, that was repairs on that back thing where they lined them up, where they came in and knocked them all down and
Yeah,
they reset it there. Yeah, I know.
Mm.
and then there's one stone up there that's a veteran that wasn't flagged.
Okay.
I forget the name.
The perimeter fence was in pretty bad shape last time I looked up there too. It was okay for a while, you know, and I keep thinking, well, we've gotta get the fence on Oak Hill done, but I'm not sure in my lifetime we'll get out there. And I don't wanna say that's what I believe, I'm thinking we will, but also with the, perimeter fence down on, Route 46, what's Page Cemetery?
Yeah,
That's in dire straits down there too. So there's a lot of fence work that needs to be done on all these cemeteries.
wonder if there's any grant opportunities, would you know of any, Whitney, for some of the, I mean, 'cause this is endless, I mean, it's,
I asked, it's a question I asked early on, and Sue said that she didn't know of any. But that doesn't mean that,
you part of an old cemetery association, Chris?
I'm a member, yeah. I mean, I can go and look and see what they know. We're also supposed to be a member of the Maine Cemetery Association, but I don't know that we are. We agreed that we would join that for
Put it on the next agenda.
information. Sorry?
You wanna put it on the next agenda and we'll,
Well, you can ask Sue if she's.
You want me to go that route?
involved. But I am a member of the Maine Old Cemetery Association.
I am too.
That's right.
I mean,
you
can we
are.
put it out on their Facebook and just see if they have any?
I can, there's people I can contact on
Okay.
that too. They're an interesting group. I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
I think the name on that stone was McIntyre.
The veteran?
That's right.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just an FYI on Molden. The other thing is, as you all know, I would like to see the cannons, some cannons put back on the Civil War monument at Oak Hill. I've looked to see if there are used ones or refurbished ones out there that we could purchase, but they're extremely expensive. So I just would like to know what you folks think about having a couple carved out of wood. I did go over to the carvers out of Verona,
Yep.
and they gave me a price for 2 cannons on their carriage, not the complete carriage, but the main carriage would be $4,500 for 2.
How long do they feel they would last, being wood?
I asked him about, how often they would have to be varnished. They use spar varnish. And he said if they're out in the sun, probably every couple of years, it would be maintenance.
And are there any other alternatives,
Well,
somebody
I've
make
still been
cast
look-
concrete or
I've
anything?
still been looking to find some that have been refurbished, and I did find some in Texas, but you've got to pick them up.
Oh, wow.
Swing by tonight,
Road
Larry,
trip in the
look
winter,
at
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
But I just want to know what you folks
Those
thought
would be
about
Confederate cans down there probably too, right?
Yeah.
Texas.
I don't have a strong opinion,
Right.
one way or the other, I mean,
I like the idea.
I do too.
I think once the cemetery is complete with the, beautiful fence and
Mhm.
everything, that it's sort of the icing on the.
finishing touches.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's just, I think it would be, I think that it would give the silhouette back to that monument.
Mhm.
I liked Larry's idea.
Mhm.
No, I mean, you looked in Searsport thinking they were down there, but that was a
No,
dead
that's
end.
not the case.
No.
There were 4 of them here in town, 2 in front of the American Legion and 2 in the Oak Hill Cemetery. All 4 of them ended up back at the fort, which is where they originally came from.
Okay.
And I've been over there and I've seen for myself that they are there.
And we're not we could go take them in the
And
middle of the night, but.
But there's no sense asking if we can
I
have
wish
back,
we
because I know what the
could.
answer
You
is.
could too, yeah.
Yeah, I
The ones in front of the Legion Hall used to be a pain in the butt for the bus drivers when they would drop kids off at the school. They hated it because sometimes they turn, they stuck out quite a ways in front there, out on Elm Street. And I remember when I'd forgotten all about them, as we've talked about in the past, you and I have. But I do remember them now being there, being in the way, so to speak, compared to the ones. But as a young man, in the Cub Scouts, we would always go to that Memorial Day. That was part of the drop off of wreaths, where you put the wreath up there, and the cannons are always there, and then they shoot the
From my understanding, they would stop at the American Legion and also at the Oak Hill Cemetery.
Well, we hit,
On the
the
parade.
first stop would be throw a wreath off the bridge. The parade would go down Bridge Street, Franklin Street, down Bridge, drop a wreath there, come back, drop a wreath here at the library, at
Okay.
the thing there,
Yeah.
and then we go up Mechanic, Franklin, up to the Oak Hill and put a wreath at the Civil War thing. Then we all head down to the Legion Hall for ice cream. That was what you did if you were in the Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, or Brownies or whatever. So that, but, those cannons are up there. I think they were moved in '95. I think that was part of the agreement when the gentleman went in there and cleaned the.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so, if I remember right,
Yeah.
'cause I was getting out of high school in '96, and I think I remember that, yeah.
I think Larry's idea is great. We've already
Yes.
talked about it, and I think whatever, we'll
Mhm.
figure out where we'll find the $4,500 if that's what it takes, but.
Yeah. And they said that they couldn't, if we decide we wanted them, that they couldn't start till like late fall anyway.
Okay.
So busy they
Well, good for them.
Hey, we could use the wood for the trees we cut out of the
Yeah,
cemetery.
see? Recycle them.
Donate to it.
maple, I don't know.
Tree.
All right,
are. I
I,
still got the oak that came off the trees that were in front of Wilson Hall.
Oh, do you?
I don't know if they'd be big enough. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I've got on that.
Okay. We can, I mean, probably need to wait for Sue. I mean,
Mm,
okay. Anything else under other items not on the agenda for discussion?
no,
Mhm.
All right, the next meeting will be July 25th, 2024 at 4:30 here.
okay, sounds good to me.
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
So,
I said it,
Okay. All in favor?
yep.
Mhm.
Motion passes.
5:22.